Hello and welcome to Fly With Your Shadow, the show all about music, mental health and illness, and the mess that the COVID pandemic has made of it all. My name's Jeff Robson, and this show comes to you from my home in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I want to start by thanking everyone who checked out the last episode, our supersized tribute to Paul McLeod. It was great to see so many people interested in Paul. If you haven't heard it yet, I encourage you to go back and give it a listen, as well as check out any of the previous episodes of this show that you might have missed, or if you want to hear them again. I ran into some wild website difficulties over the past little while, and although I think I've got the site back, I noticed that the email subscriber list was somehow deleted. If you want to be notified of new episodes and posts on the website, head on over to flywithyourshadow.com and subscribe, even if you've already done so before. This show, of course, grew out of my love of great music and the many ways in which music has helped me to cope with difficult situations in my life and has made my life so much richer. I have a deep love of great songs and the stories and feelings that they can convey. My very favorite songs have always been ones that I can easily understand and feel. I love it when a few lines in a song can paint a vivid picture that I can see and feel. Often, great songs seem to be able to put my feelings into words in ways that I simply can't. On this episode, I have the great pleasure of talking to a songwriter who does that so magically. I recently had a conversation with one of the most respected and acclaimed contemporary singer-songwriters in Canada. He's able to write songs that convey simple thoughts and ideas in beautiful, poetic ways. He's got amazing songs about love and sorrow and joy that are so powerful and perfect. I'm a huge fan.
Hello, my name is David Francey. I'm a singer-songwriter from Elphin, Ontario, the middle of nowhere, the hinterland, and I've been off the road now for 2 years anyway, and really the year before that as well. So we're coming to the end of COVID, and I'll be awfully glad to get there.
You may notice the accent. David Francey was born in Scotland, but his family moved to Canada when he was 12. The value and importance of hard work was instilled upon him early. His debut album, Torn Screen Door, was released in 1999 when Franci was already in his 40s. Up until then, Franci was a carpenter and a construction worker working on job sites, rail yards, and in far-flung places across Canada. All the while, he would make up melodies and words in his head, content to sing them to himself and maybe a few close friends, but never really trying his hand as a musician. At the urging of his loving wife, artist Beth Girdler, he started performing and made an album of some of the best songs he'd come up with up to that point. He wasn't much of a guitar player at the time, so he hooked up with Quebec acoustic guitar master Dave Clark, who provided tasteful, melodic, and interesting instrumentation. The reaction to their combo was immediate. Within a year, he was in demand at the biggest folk festivals in Canada. After 3 strong albums, Dave Clark stepped back to dedicate himself to his solo albums and his band Steel Rail. Franci went on to make an album with Nashville heavyweights Kieran Kane, Kevin Welch, and Fats Kaplan. That was all within 5 years of the beginning of his recording career. At the time, Franci was on the road far more than he was home. He was touring the world and taking his songs and stories all over the place. And so it went for several years. Prior to the release of his 2013 album, So Say We All, Franci fell into a deep depression brought on by the death of one of his closest friends. It was through his writing and the love of his family that he was able to pull himself out, and he's been honest about his struggles with depression since then in songs, poems, paintings, and conversation. The wear and tear of nearly 20 years of constant touring finally caught up with David Francey around the time of his 2018 album, The Broken Heart of Everything. He'd been struggling with his voice for a while, but being the dedicated worker that he is, he just pushed through it. He really started to notice his voice failing during a Canadian East Coast tour, and he knew that he'd pushed it a little too far. He drove straight home and resigned himself to the fact that he wouldn't be able to sing for quite some time. He spent a lot of time on his other love, painting. It's kind of ironic that once he had that break, he was just starting to reemerge as a live performer when COVID shut that down too. It's given him a bit more time to rest and heal up and write some new songs, and I know that he's raring to go. I've been lucky enough to know David for most of his 20-plus year career, and it's always a treat to take some time to catch up and talk about what's been going on in our lives. Here now is my chat with the great David Francey.
And every dread that you can name, it rattles round inside my brain. I'm lucky I've got a brain at all, beating my head against this wall.
I think you started playing the big folk festivals and stuff in 2000. And I know that you had, you kind of joined music a little bit later in life, and it wasn't something that you had really kind of intended as a career, I guess. What was that like? Like when you started out, did you envision the life that you've kind of had with music being so prominent?
Well, no, not really, Jeff. I mean, I wrote the songs in for myself and kept them for myself and didn't play them out for anybody and had a stack of songs before I started. But I was 45 years old, so when I got into it, I had no illusions. I got this chance to make the first record, Torn Screen Door, and I thought, well, this is an amazing opportunity. I'm going to go do it. It turned out great. But I remember actually being there when they were putting it to bed, and my first time in a studio and all that stuff, it was all done, and we were putting it to one track to another. So I remember looking at the studio in Palais Montcalm in Quebec City and thinking to myself, God, I enjoyed that. That was great fun to make a record. I'm glad I got a chance to do that, figuring that was the only record I was going to make, I mean, it was just such an anomaly. And anyway, we put the record out, and next thing you know, I'm driving up the highway, and I hear Les Seminac say, "Oh, that's my record of the year for folk music on Definitely Not the Opera is, Torn Screen Door." And we nearly drove off the highway, man. We just about took a hard left, I was just so shocked. And anyway, that made it kind of plain that the record had a bit to it. So we kind of adjusted and thought, well, we'll just see how far we go, and here we are, still going. So.
And do you think it was because you kind of waited so long and had these songs brewing for so long and didn't really have that pressure that things kind of worked out pretty quickly for you?
I think so, Jeff. I think it all went into it, I think the body of work was as good as I can do. And I think when I was in my 20s and 30s, I hadn't thought things through, and I hadn't really lived enough to write about anything as far as I was concerned. So, and it was looking back on my life and then writing about the current life I was living that rang for people because, fairly ordinary life and working life and everything else. But, there's beauty in everything, and there's uniqueness in everything. And I think, some of the songs reflected a lot of people, a lot of people's own experience. So I think that was the fortunate part. That's probably because I waited till I was 45 and, I had a lot of experiences that a lot of people could identify with.
And did you have any, was it hard to get gigs or anything, or is it just once people heard you? Like a lot of times you have to go on tour so many times and open for people and build up your name and stuff. And it seemed like you didn't have to sort of start from the same place as a lot of people.
Well, I didn't enter into it at 20 with a vision of attaining some kind of notoriety or success or something. I mean, I really went into it eyes wide open, and the thing is, Jeff, like I put no pressure on myself at all. I just thought, I don't want to play, noisy bars. I'd rather play for 10 people listening in a basement than 100 people not listening in a bar. That made sense to me. So we did that, and people were lined up to say, "Oh, you can't do that. You got to go play the bars." And I said, "No, I don't. I'll just do this, and if it doesn't work, I'll go back to construction. I'm completely happy." And I was. So I had no pressure at all. And sure enough, that tack we took was the right one. I mean, that was a listening audience, and they're the ones who told their friends and brought more people to the next show, and that's how it grew. It was very organic nature of how it grew, really. So, but again, no plan, no overall, like, let's take the music world by storm. It was just, it just kind of happened and kept happening, and we were adjusting as we went along, and grateful for what we were getting. That's the other thing. Terrifically grateful.
The record celebrated 20 years. I guess it's been a little while now, but 20 years. Sometimes it feels like it was a blink of an eye since I first heard that record, and then I look back and see you've got all these records. And
oh, I totally agree with you, Jeff. I mean, I remember talking to you when that record was out. I remember talking to you in Winnipeg, And I think we were both kind of finding our feet at that point, and yeah, I think so. And so, there's those kind of bonds you make. Like, you were totally wonderful to me. So, it's I said to Beth at the time, I said, we'll deal with anybody who treats us right, and we'll treat everybody right. And if they don't treat us right back, we won't go back, and we won't have anything to do with them. And we've done that too. So, hence I'm still a friend of yours, and there's lots of people from the very first tour that I still know and admire and like. So, I've just met some tremendous people in music, and, their love of music is infectious. And so when you're around people like that all the time, it's easy to stay in love with what you're doing.
Sometimes when people look back at their debut record 20 years later, they hear all kinds of warts and like they're maybe they've grown past it so much. But I feel like your work has been so consistent since day one. Do you have any like things about that first record that you listen back and go, I wish we'd have done that differently? Or
I don't. I know there's people like that. Like, I remember talking to Harvey Reid, who's a tremendous guitar player and, national champion finger picker, and got 16 or 20 albums out. And we were talking about making records, and he says, the thing I do to stay awake in the road is I put on my earlier records and think about what I do differently now, And, and I remember looking at it, I was shocked, because his records are wonderful, man. Wonderful records, right? And he says, don't you feel like that? I said, no. I don't. I said, we worked so hard on that record, and we put everything into it that we had. And, given the personnel, man, Dave Clark in the studio, you know what I mean? It's like, I had the best I could get, and I knew it couldn't have been done any better than we did it. So I felt really proud of it and really happy with it, and still am. And my biggest disappointment, this whole COVID thing, or certainly one of them, is Dave and I were going to play that record live for a few shows, and we were already talking about it and getting it underway. And Mark was going to be there, Mark Westberg and Chris Cool. Everybody was in on it because they all love Dave, and that's where it all started. So that was a real disappointment. But I just talked to Dave last week, so he's doing great, and he's re-releasing or getting their new album out, and releasing one of his own. And it's just great that wonderful people just keep making music.
For the 20th anniversary, you put out a vinyl version, and you put out the songbook for it.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I used to play guitar. I thought I was going to be a rock and roll guitar, and then I realized that it took a lot of work, and I quit, as I often do when things take a lot of work. And then I got your songbook, and I know those songs inside and out because I've listened to them thousands of times. I thought, you know what? I'm going to learn how to play these songs. I'm going to buy that book. I'm going to pick up my guitar out of the case, and it's going to be awesome.
Wow.
And then I quickly realized that Dave Clark is no ordinary guitar player. Maybe not the best starter material.
No, he's a world of his own, that boy. He was a thrill to arrange songs with, and there was nothing like taking a song to Dave, and we were so on the same page that it was pretty much we would listen. He'd start it out, and that would probably be it. Like, we just go that direction, and with those chords and everything he picked, because he was just such a champ, at that. So, like you said, I look back on that record, and I just wouldn't change anything he did, or anything I did for that matter, or anyone did. There were wonderful people that got together to make that record. So I think it's actually stood the test of time. And quite frankly, I can't play them the way Dave does either. So I don't feel bad. He's the man. That's it.
That songbook should have a warning label on it, not for mere mortals or something.
I know, man.
Your songs have that beautiful simplicity, but Dave is not so simple.
Well, that's the lyrics and the melody. Yeah. What happens after that is hardly anything but simple, but certainly beautiful. And it's the only time that I ever brought anything to Dave where right away we didn't just sort of fall into something was Paperboy. And I brought the song, and I had the idea of the melodies that started out like that. And I was trying to play it on guitar, and anyway, I just sung it for Dave, and it's the only time that we got together where it just didn't go anywhere. It just sort of went flap. And I went, no, I think it needs to do this. And I, hacking away on the guitar. And then Dave fell into, little, 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 now. You know what I mean?
Down to the agent's shop I'd go, I'd shoulder my bag.
Just out of the blue. But that was the only time, the two of us, when we got together, that we kind of were like, no. I'll never forget it just for that reason, Every other time it was just like fall into it,
And then you just, you kind of, regardless of no expectations, you kind of went hard on the records. You were putting out records every year, every couple of years for the longest time. Was it hard coming up with the songs and getting those out on time? Were you pushing yourself too hard, or was it just always coming? And
no, it's just coming, Jeff. I never pushed myself. I do. I'm a good worker. Let's put it that way. But I'm definitely a good worker. But I don't push myself like aesthetically and artistically. It's things happen for me. That's just how it works. So I'll be going along, and then all of a sudden it'll hit me, and away I am. I'm working hard, and I'm working hard until it's done, or until I'm got as far as I can go on it. And then, so it's always a process that keeps coming. So I was never out of songs, So when the albums came up to do, it was basically, a big stack of songs. Which ones are going to see the light of day? Which ones fit together? That kind of thing. So I just finished. I think it's around 40 actually songs since this whole thing came down, and but there's 10 of which I think are just I'm in love with, I really, really like, 10 of them. And the others are good exercises in writing, and they're good songs. There's nothing wrong with them. But, I probably won't record them. You know what I mean? But I wrote because I was moved to write. And as soon as I'm moved to write, I've got to write something. And, as long as I got whatever was bothering me out of the way by the writing, then that song's done. And on to the next,
Through it all, I mean, you've always told stories about your life and about people and stuff, but you've never been shy of tackling, difficult topics, whether it's, the fallout of 9/11, or whether it's, people having hard lives or having hard times. Was it always important for you to tell all kinds of stories and get some of the good and some of the hard times in there as well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I definitely write from my not happy place. So, that's one thing I noticed about writing was, I write from being moved, and so being moved is either, you're happy, you're sad, you're angered, you're ecstatic, whatever it is. And usually I'm not ecstatic, but I am angered a lot by what goes on sometimes, and I'm disappointed a lot. And so, when I see something happen, that's sort of detrimental to folks, I get upset about it. And certainly all that nonsense in the States right now, that horror show they've got on down there, is something that I've written about, that's for sure. And lots of people have, and will. But again, if you get moved, if I get moved, I write. And so I always have been able to keep up a flow of music and a flow of work,
The show is a lot about talking about mental health and our struggles with that and stuff. And I know, especially around the period of So Say We All, you had gone through a pretty hard time and have talked about that. Is there anything you can tell me about that?
Yeah, we kind of, life's so cyclic, isn't it? I mean, everything was cruising along really great. And then, my best friend in the world was a fellow named Ian McGregor, and we worked construction together. I met him up in the Yukon as, a couple of travelers, and had a great time. Best fellow I've ever met in my life, and I lost him, and I found that really hard. And I'm one of those people that doesn't deal with stuff like that very well. I just get a bit harder and I keep going, and that's it. And I tend to, not let it out and let's not deal with it, just keep motoring, keep marching. And often that kind of works, but sometimes it doesn't. So, I certainly I fell into some pretty low places there, and I thought to myself, well, I'm writing my way out of this, and I realized, in the sort of depth of everything, I was writing a lot of songs, and I realized that they had the theme running through them was that they were kind of addressing what was going on in my head and what was happening. So I put that record out, and I just wanted to reassure people that, as black as it gets, every wheel turns, and at some point or other we come out of it. And, if we can work our way out of it, great. And you absolutely should. And that's what I was trying to do with those songs. And they all ended up on the record because they all had a bit of a theme running through them, I suppose.
So it was the writing that kind of helped you work through the hard things that were going through your life?
Yeah, it's a great help to me, and it always has been, Jeff. I've always got a lot of solace out of the writing. I think because you pour so much of yourself into it, and you're so involved in it, and it takes everything you've got to do it as well as you can. So, while you're doing that, you're not worrying about the things that were worrying you. What you are worrying about is the song and getting it right and capturing those emotions and those feelings. So it takes you out of the emotions and feelings you're trying to capture, essentially. I can drop into a depression and stay there. And often the only way I get out of it at all is to write my way out. And I've been like that since I started, so I doubt that's going to change much,
Is that discipline that allows you to get to writing again? Is that just something you have to continually do, or how? Because when I feel at my worst, the last thing I feel like doing is working.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That lethargy is something else, isn't it? That kind of lethargy that slips in on you with depression. It's incredible because I'm not a lethargic person. I don't like sitting around. I like doing stuff, and whether it's hammering nails or picking up an instrument or painting or whatever. But I found when in those periods of depression, nothing happened. I mean, life is just stultifyingly dull, and so you just get worse and worse that way. So for myself, I always know I'm starting to come out of it when I feel about as low as I can feel, and then I'll get an idea for a song, and I'll start working that, and I'll get that one done, and I know for a fact that I've got a leg up again. So then it inspires me to keep marching. But yeah, at that point, it's not so much like work; it's more like a necessity at that point for me. It's just something I'm going to do anyway, and no matter what, I'm always inspired to write.
I know that you've been blessed with a wonderful wife who's been a huge help to you. Is she like when you're starting to get a little grumpy or something? Maybe you should go write a song, David. Or maybe
she's always said that. It's funny, Jeff. I'll be I'll mull shit over. I mean, I'll mull stuff over in my head all the time, and I'll just keep it in there, and I won't say a word for days, and I'm just kind of like that. It's just how I am. And she'll turn to me at some point because she's a very up person. She's a very up person and very positive, and I'm not. We're exactly the opposite that way. But at any rate, she'll say, "I hope you write that song soon because you're getting unbearable." And then I'll go, "Oh Jesus, yeah, you're right." And sure enough, the song come out and everything will be great for another little while. So it's yeah. I mean, thank God we've got people with us. Cause,
so she has someone to talk to?
Yeah, exactly. Or at least talk at, complain.
When you have these songs, is it ever hard to sing them again for years on end, and have guys like me ask you about it to talk about it again? Does that ever strike you as something you don't want to revisit?
No, not at all. I mean, I'm proud of the songs, and I know I did the best I could do with them. And if they're not up to somebody's standards, that's fine. I fully accept that. Or they doesn't appeal to somebody, I get that too. But they ring with enough people, and there's people have they treat them with such respect, I guess, or something like that. Anyway, they invest those songs with an importance, and it behooves me to retain that importance too, because they were important to me when I sung them, so I don't take it for granted. I don't get on stage and do things by rote, which was my big fear when Beth and I got started in on this. I remember saying to her, "What happens, gorgeous, when I'm on the road doing like 20 gigs in a row and I'm singing the same songs night after night?" And I said, "I'll just do them by rote. What'll happen then?" And she says, "You'll never do them by rote because you'll always remember where you were when you wrote it, and you'll always remember why you wrote it." And those were, by far, and I give everybody else credit, the wisest words that anybody ever said to me on music, and that was Beth. And when she said that, I realized, yeah, she's right. I mean, I do sing like Broken Glass. I've sung it thousands of times, probably.
When you hear a sound like broken glass, that's my heart every time that girl walks past. When you Hear a sound like the rush of wind, just me catching my breath again.
I don't sing it once without thinking of exactly why I wrote it. It's just, I mean, I just don't, and it's part of the song for me. So she was dead right about that. So, you know, the fact that you're asking questions about songs I wrote 20 years ago, that suits me to a T. And, you know, I'm happy to talk about the one I wrote yesterday. But, you know, it's pretty nice to have someone like yourself, you know, bring up work you've done and treat it with, you know, a bit of importance. It's quite remarkable.
Well, I think you know how important it's been to me over the years, and I'll tell you as many times as you like how much these songs have meant to me over the years, and a lot of people as well. So your career has always been very independent. I mean, I guess you've had a little bit of help here and there from different record labels and stuff, but for the most part, you've run your own label and shipped out your own records and stuff, and most of that work has been done by Beth. Has that been hard? Like sometimes when you work with the person you love the most, it can put a strain on the relationship, or it, you know, if she says like we need to do something one way and you don't want to, it can cause friction. Do you guys ever run into any of those things?
No, we work as a good team. I mean, that's the truth. You know, like as far as you know, I mail the stuff out and write the notes and thank people and everything else, as does Beth when she organizes everything for me that way. She took a great step back from everything when we got Mark Watson to help us out with the management. He's been a real boon, and you know, we both really like Mark and admire him. So that's been a big thing. So Beth is able to do a lot of stuff that she much prefers doing, but. You know, we get along pretty great musically. The only time we come to a head is often approach to an album. Sometimes is, you know, I keep that very, very tight. That's kind of like my business, you know, and I get very defensive about that. So, you know, I'm never looking for input as to what the next album should be or you know what we should be doing. I love her to death, man, but I don't look to her for input in that front, you know, and I admire her and I appreciate her opinion, no doubt about it, but I'll be the arbiter of what we do that way. So I think it's only fair since creating the songs. So there's that, you know.
But it seems to have worked out all right in the end.
Yeah, so far.
The records have been great and everything's...
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a real joy for both of us. And, you know, Beth's met some tremendous folks through this whole thing as well. And, you know, because we toured so much together at the first, like when we first met you guys and all that, and that was, you know, we were like lockstep for years on the road and at home. And that was a huge, huge boost for both of us, I think, as far as enjoying what we were doing and making it work a bit.
And having that time all away, obviously, that can be difficult on a relationship and stuff too. But I guess you guys managed because you just
that's when miss.
It was so important,
you know?
And
I'm really a lot nicer when I'm on the road because I'm working and I'm happy and I'm making other decisions, you know, and I'm working with great guys I just love and you know, traveling. So I'm always happy on the phone. It's when I get home that, you know, it's I got to work on that a little bit. That's all.
When did you start painting and stuff as well? Because you've been painting for a number of years.
Oh, I started painting when I met Beth, and you know, I always drew and I always did cartoons and stuff, and I always had a bit of a ability to draw and stuff. And but I'm colorblind, so I never really painted. And then I met Beth, and I adore her work. I mean, I think she's one of the best watercolorists I've ever met, and I mean that sincerely. And I do love art. I'm hard on it, and I you know, I enjoy it, and I'm critical of it. But her stuff is tremendous. So when she said, you know, why don't you try painting? I was like, right. But I did, and then you know, of course, the first ones were kind of nowhere, but eventually they started picking up, and then eventually it became something that I did when I wasn't writing, and you know, when I wasn't working on a song or a poem or something, I would start painting, and then I found that it was a tremendous release. Same kind of release you get from singing and poetry and anything else that's created that way. So I realized when I finished the first painting it was worth anything, you know, as far as to my opinion anyway, one of the better ones I did up until then. I was like, this feeling is exactly the same feeling you get when you've wrestled a song into its final fixed form. It's exactly the same feeling. So I realized then that it's the same well we're drawing from as far as inspiration and creativity. So I think they're two sides of the same coin. I'm pretty sure.
So when you have a feeling or you meet somebody or whatever, can you decide whether it's going to be a painting or a poem or a song or?
It just depends, I think, really. And I never really plan anything. As you know, the thing is, when you meet people and when you run into things and situations, I'm a big believer in letting things settle in, and I think that those periods when we're not writing and stuff, those are gestation periods, and I think everything that we might write about is in there. We just have to figure it out and sort it out. And I don't think that our conscious mind really does that. I think it's our unconscious mind that does that. And hence, like you've maybe met somebody and then, a few days later, this song pops into your head and it's about them, but you didn't know it at the time. It's just, it's fallen out that way, kind of thing.
Can you tell me a bit about sort of you've had some troubles with your voice and stuff over the past number of years.
Awful.
When did that come along?
Oh, just too much touring, man. I mean, I was at it for 20 years, and doing a lot of shows a year, and gone most of the year, and all of that. So but I loved it. I wasn't unhappy doing it. I was far too happy doing it, really, and I didn't want to stop. So I think I just tried to keep going long past when my voice was on its last legs for a while. So I was treating myself with oil of oregano and shit, and that was sort of getting me through shows, but it was just destroying my throat, I think. So at any rate, I had no choice but to come off the road, and it was horrible. I mean, I canceled 2 years of work in Australia and Britain and all these tours. Out the window, and I just was heartbroken and totally crushed. So I didn't write any songs for that first summer I was off. I just painted. I bought a whole pile of canvases, and I made a little room in the barn, and I sat there and I painted day in, day out, and just tried not to think about music and everything else, and just pour myself into something that I could get some satisfaction out of doing, and was still artistic. So that was a real breakthrough for the painting, and out of that became a tour. So that actually got the painting off the ground, but it came out of having lost the voice and really just feeling so cut off from everything that I just had to do something.
And had those vocal troubles been kind of lingering for a while before it really got bad?
Yeah, they were. I mean, they were. I like to work though, and I just didn't think anything of it. And I could still get up and sing. It just got to the end there, like 3 years ago or whatever it was. I was struggling so hard every night, and I suddenly realized I'm beat. I mean, I'll never forget. I was down in Nova Scotia and Iona, and it was like, oh my God, it was a long drive back. I did it in one shot. I was so wired and worried about everything that I just drove home in one long shot, and got home and unpacked the van and thought, well, I won't be packing you for a long while, and I was right. So but anyway, took the time off and have rested up, and it's back to as good as it's going to be. So I'm really kind of tempted to take it out and try it again. But just working up the nerve to try and sing, as I used to, it was tough. I mean, because I didn't want to have a disappointment on that front. So I work with Terry Tuss. Just Terry, probably a wonderful player, but tremendous singer. And Terry and I are neighbors. And he's the one who sort of got me back into singing again. He ran a bunch of exercises by me, and I'd go over and do some exercises with him, do a little bit of singing. And so he's given me a tremendous boost as far as, realizing that the voice is coming back. So, now it's just to get control of the nerves and everything else. So we'll see how that goes,
So when you first stopped and did all that painting and stuff, did you feel like maybe the singing was done? That was it? Or did you always know it was going to come back?
No, I didn't know it was going to come back, but I wasn't ready to. I definitely wasn't ready to pack it in. You know what I mean? So I just thought, well, this is a huge obstacle, and I don't have much choice but to live through it and get through it and keep marching. So that's what I did, always with the eye that, I was writing the whole time, and not during that time, but, after that initial disappointment of everything passed and the initial burst of painting passed after a few months, I started writing again. So, I always knew I would, but I got a really good one right off the bat. So I was like, oh, okay. And then, just kept at it from there. And like I said, nearly 40 songs later, here we are. So.
Yeah, it always kind of amazed it. Like, I mean, you're not exactly David Lee Roth out there. You're not you're not jumping around and screaming all the time. So no, I mean that as a compliment. Like, you've always sung the right way, and you're very, very real in everything you do. So, I wouldn't have expected your voice to wear out as much as somebody who's singing in a high falsetto all the time. You know what I mean?
Thanks, my friend. Yeah, I know. Me neither. Believe me, me neither. And but the thing is, I started at 45. I went like a madman, and I was in my mid 60s with everything. When I guess when the chickens came home to roost. So, I kind of brought it on myself, and but I'm like that. I'm like that. I don't like to stop doing something I enjoy, and there's nothing I enjoy more. So, as I said, I brought it on myself, and probably could have handled it all better, but I don't know. Here we are now, so I'm just hopeful for what's coming up, Yeah.
I know that you kind of tiptoed back into singing a little bit along, kind of backing other people up and stuff like that. Were you nervous about coming out again? I know you said that you didn't want to disappoint anybody, but was there also the concern about, like, I don't want to cause myself permanent damage or anything here too?
Well, I figured I could come back, but mostly I was worried about how it would be received and if I could do the job. That was my biggest worry. And before the COVID hit, I was actually back on the road. Just taking some great stabs at things, and I had a wonderful show in Calgary at the Nickelodeon, and a couple of really nice shows, and I had to work hard before the shows was warming up and stuff, but they went well, and they felt good, and everything was feeling a little bit better. So, there was a lot of hope going on at that point, but then when COVID hit, that put the boots to that. So, that was a tough one.
Yeah. So you were ready to get back at it. Hopefully, hopefully you've learned some lessons. Like, it's the schedule's not going to be what it was before if you ever get back on things.
That's it, Jeff. Yeah, it's just I mean, I'll be dead honest with you. In my head, like, I'm 21. At 23, I do have a lot of energy, and I've stayed in shape through this thing, and I'm not gotten fat and lazy. I just stuck. So, I'm doing everything I can that way to keep things going. So, I'm just gotta hope for the best on that one, of course. But I certainly felt physically ready to go and mentally ready to go, and this has been a bit of a setback. I'll worry before the first gigs for sure, because I'm a worrier anyway. At the best of times, I'm worrying myself sick before a show. So I'm not looking forward to that too much, but I am looking forward to getting the first song done and having some kind of, I hope, normalcy hit me by the second song. I don't know.
You have such a different experience, I guess, of the whole COVID thing, because so many artists that we know and love have just toured so hard and never really taken a break, and then COVID forced them to take their first break. Mm-hmm. You had already kind of taken your first break when your voice was causing you trouble, and then you were ready to get back onto it again, and then you're forced to take another break.
Yeah, man. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Yeah, that's exactly what happened, pal. And it was one of those things you just kind of look up and go, oh yeah, I have a friend who I just adore, and he's one of the funniest humans I've ever met in my life, and has continued to be. But he has some medical issues, and I stayed over with him a few times, and he's a joker, right? So every morning he lets the dog out, then he looks up at the sky from the backyard, and he shakes his fist at the sky, and then goes back in the house, every single morning. And I'm not kidding you, man. I was on the kitchen floor laughing my head off when he did that. And I take a lot of solace in that. It's just like, all those things that hit him, he's still got this fantastic sense of humor. and this like all just shaking his fist at all of it was such a inspiring thing, in its own quirky and weird way. It just felt good, to witness. So, kind of shaking my fist at the sky as we go along every day, just come on, let's go, let's get this thing going.
There must have been some frustration when you started first got going, and then all of a sudden, you couldn't do the shows that you were hoping to get back out and do.
Oh yeah, that was rotten. But the whole world was clobbered. So I certainly didn't take that one to heart. I was just like, well, that's a bit of bad luck, and there's not much I can do about it. So I just, like everyone, just kept my head down and tried to figure out what was happening, which was extremely difficult. But here we are in the hinterland, so we had a leg up on a lot of people. The only thing we didn't have was really internet. So, a lot of people were doing great shows over the air and over the internet, and we couldn't watch any of them because we had wooden Wi-Fi for all intents and purposes. Truly, man, it was awful. And, I've got a really good friend down east, Tara Spencer, who's coming on like a house on fire. And wonderful songwriter, like just wonderful. And I was trying to watch her, and this froze up within 2 seconds. So, that was a real drag and really isolating. So that was a wee bit lousy. And then I was just going to, I signed up to do a songwriting workshop with a bunch of people through Kevin Welsh and Fats Kaplan and those guys. So I signed up to that thinking I'll just go to a motel and live there for a week and do it, with good Wi-Fi. And 2 weeks before we're going to do it, or the week before we're going to do it, they put up a new tower in Lanark. And all of a sudden, we could do Zoom. So it was, an eye-opener, and that's a wonderful thing, man. It was that was really great. So the Zooms proved to be a pretty useful tool as far as the songwriting goes, and teaching and helping people. So I'm really happy about that. That was a good thing that came out of this.
Yeah, and you've been doing some, like, people can actually sort of book a online songwriting workshop with you now, right?
Yeah, you can do a session online. I've done a few of them now, like quite a few, and gotten some lovely letters back, man. And I love writing songs. I just do, and I love helping people write to the best of their abilities, and regardless of what their expectations are, we're just talking about the song. So, I'm very comfortable talking about songs and where I think they should go to help them. So it's something that I actually feel like I do some good in the world when we're doing those things. Plus, I just like songwriting, so it's a fun thing to explore with anybody, really.
Can you sort of give me an example of how that works? Like, not being a songwriter myself, I don't really know the process, but you've always written your songs totally by yourself, I think, pretty much in your head. So what's it like to now all of a sudden be bouncing ideas back and forth? How does it work? You or somebody else brings in an idea, and then you just kind of figure out where you should go from there?
Yeah, no, this what these things do, Jeff. I see it. To clarify, what these things are is people bring their works to me, maybe 3 songs or just one, and then I look it over and say, okay, here's where I hear this thing going bump, and here's what you could do to make this work out a little bit better. So what I'm doing is I'm not co-writing with people in that respect. I'm just advising them on what to do with their song and sort of just steering them along to have a little bit more fun with the writing and maybe be a little bit more productive and and just take the bumps out if I can. And people, they love their songs, man. And regardless of what the song is, it's their effort, and it's 100% their effort. And I just want them to be the best they could do. So I don't have any problem doing that, and I really enjoy it as well. So that's been a real boon, and I've really enjoyed it a lot. So that part was great. And as far as co-writing on the internet, it can be done. That's for sure. It can be done. So that was a real eye opener too. So it was Craig Worth who used to play for me, with me. He got me into the Zoom thing, and that's been a really interesting thing. If you can't be in the same room, at least you can share direct. It's pretty neat.
Is it hard sometimes giving songwriters honest feedback about their songs, though? Because you said yourself, you don't want feedback on the direction of the album. They're my songs, and I want it done my way. So when obviously somebody's coming to you by choice, they're you're not poking your nose in without being asked. But But at the same time, you know that these things are precious to you and they mean something. So is it hard to give somebody like this isn't working here, and then do they ever kind of
Well,
resist that, or?
no, I don't think people do. I mean, they're signed up because something's bothering them about their song, or they want to bounce it off you for whatever reason. And if you give the song their full due, you listen to them and you understand what they're trying to do. And then if you're in a position to say, correct a really bumpy line, let's just say it's a dreadful, it doesn't fit the meter of the song or anything else, and they're kind of singing through it, then you go, you know what? Here's what I would do here. And then, I would say, I would look for something that says this and that. And then people just, they find it like with incredible alacrity. When you point stuff out, they go, oh, and then with incredible alacrity, they find a replacement. So, it's, these are small tweaky things that you're helping them with, but, it's huge in the process of writing. And, I don't need that myself. I like I said before, I kind of reject it, but that's I'm sure of myself writing, and these guys aren't yet, or they're still finding their feet as writers, and so there's a little bit of insecurity about their writing, and I try and point out the good things that they're doing, and try and emphasize that this is the direction you need to go in, and this other stuff that keeps creeping in, you got to get rid of that. So it's people. I think they take the advice in the spirit it's given, which is in the spirit of cordiality and music, and it's like anything else. If you ask for help, you better check your ego. So and people do, and I've really met some really charming and really lovely people with this thing, and I'm really happy we're doing it.
At the same time, though, are you able to kind of learn things and make your own songwriting better? I know that, I'm terrible at solving my own problems, but I'm great at solving other people's problems. And then sometimes when I tell people why they're making such a desperate mistake, I realize, oh, wait a second.
Oh, yeah.
I was doing that too.
Well, yeah, I mean that's how I learned, right? I mean, essentially, and I'm hard. I mean, I'm not a pushover. I mean, I point out the good things, which I think you need to do, because so much of songwriting is expression of yourself, and if you've done that well, then it should be notified, or you should be acknowledged. But if you are writing and things are a little bit stretchy, or you're obviously trying to be profound and it's not working, then it's fairly obvious to us, an experienced songwriter, where it's going off the rails. So it's just a question of guiding folks and saying, look, this is a great line, but it's not working here. Take it, put it in your book, use it in another song. Let's get a new one for this one. So that kind of thing. So it's exciting too. So I think it makes me excited, and I think that it just keeps the whole level up as far as the enjoyment factor of writing.
Through all of this, you said you've got 40 songs and you're going to whittle it down to 10 or whatever. So is there a plan to make another record? Is there, do you already have that idea in your head?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, Jeff. I don't know about you. I'm clued out. I won't lie to you. As far as do you make a record? Do you make a CD? Do you make an MP3 or something like that? The direction of where music's going to go. I don't have a clue what to do. I have these songs which I would really love to record, and I have people that I'd really like to record with. But and I will probably. Well, I will record something. I really want to make another record, at least one more. So, when that's going to happen, I'm not really sure, but hopefully it's still something that is viable to do. I mean, we're in an odd place, man. I mean, I just read this thing with Peter Frampton, for Christ's sake, and he got about 25,000 plays, and he made $1,200 or something, or 25 million plays, and he got $1,200. If he's having a hard time, imagine me or anybody else. So I don't know what your feeling is on it and where it's going to go, but I don't really have a strong idea myself.
Well, I mean, I think you're a very different performer than Peter Frampton is. I think that guys like you, artists like you who have a very personal connection with their audience, your audience, I think, is always going to want to buy something from you. Maybe it's not going to be as the numbers it was before, and maybe it's not going to be the same as it was before, but I have to believe that people are always going to want to support you somehow. So if you put something out, I know that I'm going to want to buy it right away, and I'm sure a lot of other people are as well.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm incredibly grateful to all the folks that have stuck with me all through this, because it's gone a long time, and but I miss them. So if they miss me and it can end as much as I miss them, then I guess it'll work out okay when we do get back out.
Yeah, and the other thing is you alluded to it earlier, but you did a bit of an art tour where you were going and selling your art at different spots as well. What was that like?
Well, it was fun. That was Tony Girard, and Tony I've known since, about 20 years as well. And he's always been a huge fan of the music and a huge booster of the arts. And he's in a position to be a booster of the arts, and he does unequivocally. And I've always benefited greatly from Tony's help that way. And he's the one who loved the art. So he's the one who sort of said, like, do a bunch of paintings, we'll take them on tour, and it'll just be like music. And I always wanted to go on tour with you anyway, so we'll go out for, 3 weeks, and we'll make it like a music tour. And so we did. And he dreamed it all up, of course. I just went along with it. But I had a tremendous time, and it was an absolute joy. Tony's one of those people that every minute spent with them is a plus, and that's a great thing. And, I got to meet a lot of people through that I hadn't known before, and see a lot of people that I'd known through music come out and say hello, at least while we were, putting the art up. And so, yeah, it's been a very big positive, and it's a positive in my life anyway, no matter what happens with it. So we had good sales and good reception of the art, and so I was really grateful for that, too. So, because that's a hard one, man. I mean, it's like, you stick it up in the wall, you got to sort of stand there while people look at it. That's a hard one. But, it's like anything else, I suppose. It's like putting out a record and going out and playing it and see what happens. And it's no different, I suppose.
I don't know. I feel like it is kind of different in a way. Like, it's easy for me to buy a record sometimes and just put it on the shelf and forget about it. But I think when people buy art, right, they're making a more of a commitment. I don't think many people buy art and then have it hidden away somewhere. They usually have it because they have it displayed prominently. So there must be a kind of pride in knowing that, you're a part of people's literal daily lives. They're looking at your work every day.
Oh, that's what a lovely take on it, man. Yeah, well, I'll go with your take. That sounds good. Way better than mine. But yeah, it is. I mean, I just was so moved when people bought the art, man. I can't tell you. I was really humbled, gotta say. But it thrills me to death. The nicest thing, Jeff, after all of that was, meeting the folks was the best. But, afterwards I'd get an email, and there would be my painting in their house, hanging on the wall. And that, you're right, was just so satisfying to see. I can't tell you. Yeah, that was really something. And, it's just some of the folks that bought the paintings were just so delightful, like, as people. And, it was really, really neat, really neat.
I know you had some shows on the books for last year. Are those shows kind of going to happen again when time permits, or are we going to?
I don't know where things are at, to be honest with you. I'm not doing anything until I'm jagged up and everything's back on a roll. But we are. I mean, those shows were booked a while, and I think most of them are going to rebook for the year, and. I'll be happy to do that. I'll be more than happy to go back on the road and get at it, and hopefully everything will, hang together with any luck at all. So, yeah. When it all happened, all I saw was like a completely wiped out schedule. So I could hardly look at it. It was the same as when I came off the road with The Voice. I just couldn't even look at it.
I wanna see the sun again, I wanna see the sun again, getting tired of the rain, wanna see the sun again.
As you heard, David has a lot of new songs that he's eager to record and share with people. I'll let him tell you more about those, as well as some of the music that he loves listening to, on the July 4th episode of my other show, Tell the Band to Go Home. You can find that show at tellthebandtogohome.com or on select streaming services. I urge you to find out more about David and purchase his albums as well as a DVD and a songbook at davidfrancey.com. Visit flywithyourshadow.com for information about the music used on this episode, as well as links to the other musicians mentioned in our conversation. As I mentioned at the top of the show, if you'd like to be notified as soon as a new episode is posted on the website, please join or rejoin the mailing list at flywithyourshadow.com. You can reach me anytime with questions or feedback at flywithyourshadow@gmail.com. I really would love to hear from you. As always, I'd also really appreciate it if you'd tell someone about this show. Spreading the word about the show is really difficult, so your personal recommendation could really help make a difference. That's it for now. I'm not sure exactly how often I'll have new episodes over the summer, but I plan to keep new conversations coming as often as I can. I hope that you'll stay tuned for more episodes and join me, Jeff Robson, again next time on Fly With Your Shadow.
Heaven I paved with gold and the road to hell is paved with souls. Someone loves me, that's I know, somewhere down the lonely road.